Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Today I'm going to be sharing my first impressions of the Castles and Crusades role-playing game. I just ordered this over the Christmas holidays and it's arrived basically within the last hour or so. I got this out, I could do a little quick flip through, made myself some lunch, and I came down to record this video. So Castles and Crusades is published by Troll Games, and I did reach out to them beforehand just to see if they had any stipulations for doing videos. Like, I know that there are companies that don't want a complete flip through of their books done because people can screen capture and knit it together to create, free PDFs of their stuff, which I get. Businesses are businesses, and I wanted to respect that. But they really said, there's nothing to worry about. Just kind of go through it. And this is not a final review. This is just my first impressions. Like I said, I've had it for about an hour. But I've heard a lot of good things about the Castles and Crusades role-playing game from a few different channels over the years, and it's a name that sort of keeps popping up. It's actually something that I was strongly considering buying when I was in Toronto. I was at, I think it was Harry Tarantula, and they had some Castles and Crusade stuff there, and I remember holding it in my hands, but ultimately I opted against buying 3 books because I already had a lot of space taken up from the other stuff that I bought for like the wrestling show I was going to. But over the holidays, I popped onto the Troll Lords website and took a look at their products there, and I had some, Christmas money to do something with that I thought would be kind of fun. So I finally decided to check this out. So like I said, over the years, I've seen channels like Capt Courageous and the Bill Allen, who is actually in my online games that I'm running. Or playing in. He's been part of those as well, and I know he really loves Castles and Crusades. And I think the other channel was DM Tales that more recently did a video on the Castles and Crusades role-playing game. So anyway, I've been really sort of developing interest in it here, and I did learn that they recently redid all 3 of their core rule books because they wanted to step away from the OGL, which is something I've always been a supporter of, going back to answering questions about the Pathfinder role-playing game. So it's really cool to see that, they're now standing on their own. And these look like some really, really cool books. And I was looking at the cover arts and stuff, and there was something about them that seemed really familiar. And it took me a moment to figure out exactly what it was. And it was one cover in particular that as soon as I saw it, it instantly registered now. But what's really cool about these covers is that they're an updated version or an homage to the first edition AD&D core rulebooks. So we got the player's handbook here, the player's handbook. We've got the characters looking over the map there, which we have on this one. I don't think there's any visible dead lizard folk, although actually maybe that is one there. But yeah, we've got the other characters down here. With the warrior there sort of polishing his sword. We got somebody sort of carrying off some goods there, and you have the 2 individuals prying the gem out of the statue's eye, which I always thought was really cool. And then we're going to slide this off to the side here. I also have the Castle Keeper's Guide. So with the Castle Keeper's Guide, we have the homage to the Dungeon Master's Guide. Castle Keeper being the term for the person running the game, so it's their version of the Dungeon Master or Game Master terminology. But we have the Afridi here, or the Ifrit, attacking the party. Looks like they did make him left-handed, which I'm cool with as a lefty. But we got the characters fighting him here in the foreground. Instead of holding a damsel, or I guess she's got a knife there, so she might be some sort of adventurer as well. We have the wizard being held in the clutches there. And then we've just got the, on the background, I didn't check the back of the player's handbook, but on the back here, we do have the river of magma there with the lizard and the boat going through it and sort of the city in the background. So I think that's supposed to be the city of Brass. So we got the Castle Keeper's Guide. And then, like I said, the book that really, as soon as I saw it, it's like, okay, that's exactly what it is then, is the Monsters and Treasure book, which is definitely the most obvious of the covers there of the first edition AD&D monster manual. So you got the dragon, the unicorn, the centaur there. You got the troll underground with the owl bear and the roper. And then on the back, We've got our hippogriff, I think. I always get griffin and hippogriff confused. So, but we got our manticore there. We got our purple worm. We got like some people running away from it there, although they don't look quite as gnomish here as they do there. And then we got our carrion crawler, our sprite, and our floating city there. So really, really cool homages to the original AD&D covers there. And of course, we do have the Trosk in the background as well that looks really ominous and menacing. So like I said, this isn't a full review. This is sort of my first impressions, but there are some things that I really like about this system here from the videos that I've seen. One of the things that I do like about it is it does sort of capture the old school sort of essence of old D&D games, but it does it in a much more sort of modern twist. So for example, if you take a look at the classes here, I just want to get to the barbarian. The classes each have their own different level progression. So a barbarian reaches second level at 2,101 experience points, whereas a bard reaches second level at 1,501 experience points. So they brought back the non homogenized leveling system that started with 3rd edition D&D from Wizards of the Coast, where every class levels at the same amount of experience points. So this is sort of the old school idea of multiple different classes leveling differently. So, and I think the wizard probably still has one of the highest progressions here. We also have a prime attribute for each of the classes here, and that ties into the game's mechanics because this is really essentially just a system that's built around ability checks. So it's not like a skill system like in 3rd edition. Everything is sort of derived from your different physical and mental attributes. And you get abilities that tell you sort of which check it's based off of, if any. And, like I said, you got your prime attribute there. So from what I understand, your class determines your prime attribute. And any checks that you make against that attribute or using that attribute start at a base number of 12. And then the castle keeper determines the difficulty of the task and assigns like a numerical range to that as well. So I think, like they said, an easy task would be like a 1 through 4 or 5 added to that 12 number. Or if it's, sort of more moderate, then it might be like 6 through 10 that you add to that. And if you're making a check that's not based off your class's prime attribute, then the target number starts at 18, and then you would add those modifiers. And then when you roll for it, you roll the d20, you add your class level to the roll that you're using the class feature of, and you get to add your relevant ability score modifier. So, for example, a 5th level barbarian looking to intimidate, for example, they would, they're actually using Constitution for that one, so that's kind of cool as well. So, like the target number to intimidate, sort of like a low-level thug, would start at 12, and then you might determine that their morale is pretty shaky because they've seen what the barbarian's already been able to do to his comrades. So you might give that an easy rating. You might add an extra 3 or 4 to it. Let's just say you add 3 to it, makes the DC 15, or not the DC, the target number 15, because they do use different terminology here, which some I'll have to get used to. But then the barbarian would roll their d20, add 5 for their level, and then whatever their con modifier was, so like say it was +2, they would get to add +2 to that as well. So just some really cool stuff. And I think like combat weapons, melee weapons are always like a strength check, strength-based check, or strength roll. And then I think range weapons are based off of your dexterity. But yeah, it just seems like a really, really cool system there. And any race can be any class. In this one, I don't think there's any restrictions. I just want to check out the Paladin real quick to see, because traditionally the Paladin was always like human or half-elf only. So if there was anything that had a restriction on it, it might be the Paladin, but I don't think there is. So I think any race can be any class, which is great. That's a more modern sort of take on, role-playing games, and definitely a welcome addition as far as I'm concerned. And then you also have the fact that you stop gaining hit dice at level 10. So level 10 is the last time you would roll for your hit points, and then after that you just get a fixed amount, which again is kind of an old school thing. So like when you look at older like first edition AD&D monster manuals and you see a dragon with 300 hit points, modern sensibilities like, oh, that's not that tough, right? Like that's not that bad. But back then this was brutal because you get only like 9 or 10 hit dice depending on what game you're running. And that's a big difference in terms of how many hit points you can have versus them. So it's kind of cool to see again that aspect of it come back. So really cool stuff there. Each class has 2 tables, so they're kind of broken up between levels 1 through 12 and then 13 through 24. I'm not entirely sure, but I think older versions of the game might have only gone like levels 1 through 12, and then there was rules for going beyond that in a different book. Again, correct me if I'm wrong there. But again, there's some really cool artwork in these books here. I like the layout. I like the page design here. So it looks kind of like paper, but they had an older printing that had this like border going around the outside of the page to make it look more like parchment. And I thought that was kind of ugly looking. It was just this like really off-putting like yellowish brown color. So this I think looks a lot better here. And again, just some really cool stuff. Some really cool artwork in here. We got the assassin class put in here as well, which is kind of a level 13 plus kind of thing. So, oh, is it? No, wait, it's got to have a level 1, doesn't it? Does it have level 1? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay. Expanding classes, I was thinking it might have been like some sort of like take on prestige classes where you had to be level 13. But no, this is a full class. It's just sort of a modified version of the rogue to kind of give you an idea of some of the stuff that you can do there, which is cool. There's multi-classing, which honestly I'm not going to get into because I just really don't want to look at that right now. But I'll check it out in a later video. I don't think you have to choose your multi-classing. Oh no, I guess you do. I guess you do still sort of choose your multi-classing at the beginning of the game, which is fine. If that's the way, then I'm totally cool with that. It's less sort of cherry-picking class features like what kind of happens with some of the more modern D&D games. But we have our races here. So we have the dwarf. So they do still get their like ability score increases. So the dwarf gets +1 to con, -1 to dex, which I think is better than, because I want to say, I could be wrong, but I thought in 3rd edition it was like +1 to con and -1 to charisma, but that might be a different type of dwarf now that I come to think about it. But yeah, really cool stuff there. We got the elves, the gnomes. The gnomes are sort of more like forest creatures there. Than like living underground like dwarves, so they're more akin to elves than dwarves. We got our half-orcs there, and we got the human. Now, what's interesting about the humans here is they don't have any ability score increases. And the benefit of playing a human in old school D&D was the fact that they didn't have a cap on their level class choices or level advancement. Now, none of the races have that in this version of the game, so they had to do something to sort of make the human still be kind of a standout option and one that's definitely worth taking. And so what they've done is they allow the human to choose 2 more attributes in addition to their class primary attribute to also be treated as primary attributes, which again lowers the target number from 18 down to 12 plus whatever modifiers the castle keeper decides to put on there for what they perceive as the difficulty, and then you get to make your roll. So you now have 3 of your 6 attributes that will have the benefit of rolling against that lower number. So if you look at your class and you see that there are a couple of other attributes that a lot of your class abilities are derived from, then you can actually just have a lower target number to start with for those. And again, we don't have a traditional skill system. So if you want to try something, then you just basically say that you want to try, this, that, or the other thing. And then the castle keeper will tell you which attribute to roll against and what the difficulty is. So again, there's not things like climb or like those kind of things, like the knowledge, skills, and stuff like that we're kind of used to nowadays. You can sort of like say what you want to do, and then you have the ability to roll based off of whether it's a prime attribute for you or not. So some really cool stuff here. Apparently, there's also some changes to the alignment system where you've got a distinction between something like chaotic neutral and neutral chaos, or like there's a way of breaking it down so that they just don't turn into murder hobos with no recourse there. I have to look at the alignment stuff here because I'm interested to see if they make it something where if your alignment changes, that it can negatively affect your level progression. Because in old school D&D, if you changed your alignment, then I think you lost your experience points, or depending on the edition, I think you lost your experience points that you had gained between the level that you are working towards the level that you're going to. Either that, or like you would only get half experience points going forward or something like that. There was definitely a penalty to it back in the day. So we'll see if it's anything that is sort of like that here. And then we got our armor and equipment. Expert armor and weapons. The only thing is that I kind of wish would have been in here would have been like just descriptions of each of the like pieces of armor and the different weapons there. But it's not the end of the world if it's not in there. I do want to see the. Okay, thank goodness. So they have the table here with the just like all the way like level 0 through 9. And I want to see if the spells are just all alphabetical, which I really hope that they are. Oh yeah, okay, they are. That's good, because again, one of the things I hated about older D&D was the fact that the spells were done alphabetically, but also by level. So if you opened up to the spell description section and you found yourself in the C's, you weren't 100% immediately sure what level it was, because it's not like they just had all the spells starting with C, the descriptions all in one place. It would be like cleric or priest level 1, and then all their spell descriptions in alphabetical order, and then it would be like priest level 2 spells, and then all the descriptions for those. So I'm glad that's not a thing that carried over, because my God, I really do kind of hate that. But again, personal preferences. I hate when that happens. But no damage, so that's good. Yeah, so nice glossy paper here as well. So it's pretty good quality paper stock. Let's get through the spells. Then we got the siege engine here, which is just basically like what I described. You base your target numbers off of the attributes normally, and then you add your level plus your relevant ability score modifier. Again, I think attack rolls are a little bit different because each class gets bonuses to their hit rolls as they go up in level. But again, I'd have to look through that sort of a little bit later on this. So this is just basic first impressions here, but just some really cool stuff to see here. I really like this. So we got 2-up in fighting rules. So that's interesting to see. Definitely does not seem to be as convoluted as 3rd edition D&D's 2-up in fighting systems there. We got our rewards, spell resistance, adventuring parties there, and just some tables at the end. Our index, and we got the character sheet in the back here. Oh, some really cool artwork there. So we got our character sheet. I'm going to have to get a PDF of the character sheet and print some off, because I do want to do a video making a character here once I get more used to how that's going to work. But yeah, really, really cool stuff. So that was the Player's Handbook. And again, I guess I flipped through more of that than I really thought I was going to. So the Player's Handbook is the main book. The second book that from what everybody keeps saying, the only 2 books that you really need to play this game or to run this game are the Player's Handbook and the Monsters and Treasure book. So Monsters and Treasure is your monster book with your treasure book. So it's all rolled into one. So again, I'm not going to go through everything here, but I do like a lot of the artwork that we have included in this book. So I think there's some really cool kind of art style there. We got our abhorrent aberration. So, definitely not the aboleth anymore. It's because, again, he had to change names, and that's totally fine. But again, some really cool stuff in here. The one thing that I will say is it is, and it was an old school thing that was perfectly understandable. Like I think even the first edition AD&D stuff, and second edition, each monster was its own separate page. But here you've got like a stat block that can start at the bottom of a page and then continue on to the next one there. It's not a huge deal by any stretch of the imagination, but it is still, just a little bit different than kind of what you're used to if you're more into modern things like, the D20 D&Ds or Pathfinder, Starfinder, where each creature stat is on its own self-contained page or like series of pages. But again, some really cool stuff here. We got our brownie, we got the brown mold, bugbear there. We got the cave fisher, and then the catobelpis. Again, I'm always bad at pronouncing some of these things. We got the crawl witch, or shawl witch. Got the chimera. Again, some really cool art for that there. We got our cockatrice, coatl, the crypt keeper. This is our Cyclops, Death Knight. So again, some of my favorite undead are in here. We got the Demi-Lich, and these are all like sort of alphabetical. We got our dinosaurs, so those are all grouped together. And some really wicked artwork in here too. I love it. Our displacer cat, so a little bit different than the panther that we're normally used to seeing. We got our doppelganger there, looks pretty cool. And then this would be the section on dragons. So yeah, again, some really cool artwork. I love the black dragon there. Still my favorite design of like the dragons in here. Black dragons are some of my favorite in general. And I do like the way that one looks there. We got our blue dragon, which looks a lot more like the white dragon from 3rd edition D&D, interestingly enough. Green dragon looks pretty cool there. I like the spines. We got our Dracolich, which, thank goodness, the Dracolich actually has some abilities that seem like more worth having. The original 5e monster manual, the Dracolich was so disappointing. So it's really cool, and that's amazing artwork there with like a Death Knight on the back of the Dracolich. Oh, I love it. Then we got our red dragon. There's our white dragon. And we got our metallics. And they also included, and I had to sort of do a double take when I first saw this, because they had the platinum dragon. It's like, wait a minute, do they have like Bahamut in here? But no, this is just another dragon type. So in Castles and Crusades, the platinum dragons are like the ultimate of the dragon types. There's our silver dragon. We got our Drauder, or Drydar, which is, again, reference that it's, if you fail to appease some dark deity. They do have dark elves in here as well in the elf section. We got the earwigs, so not quite ear seekers, but it's close. There's our elves there. There's our dark elves. There's our Ettercops. And this is what really surprised me, was that they actually have the Eye Stalker. So this is very similar, but legally distinct to a beholder. So it's got like the big central eye there, although this one actually has like arms hanging down. It's really cool artwork there. The eye stalks are just like nasty looking, but they have the anti-magic eye, and then they have the eye rays there. Then we've got the Eye Stalker, the deep Eye Stalker, which again has those like crab claws there, which is really, really cool. So I was really happy to see that in there. It's like I don't have to worry about trying to convert from older D&D books if I want to throw a beholder in my games, because I pretty much always want to throw a beholder in my games. And there's our Ifrit genies there, our ghouls, the giants. Fire giant looks really cool. Actually, I like this cloud giant there too. A lot of times cloud giants look but that one looks really, really cool. The hill giant, there's our frost giant, storm giant. We got our I always call it gibbering. I know that's not the way that it's supposed to be pronounced, but it's just the way that it always registers in my brain, so I'm sorry. Gnolls, gnomes, golems, the Gorgon, green slime. Okay, griffin. Okay, not hippogriff. So that's what was on the back cover there. We got our hags, the sea hag, the hangman's tree. We got our harpy, the haunt, the hellhound. So some really cool art. And here's one that I was really happy again. So it's the Hexiva, which is again like the Hukiva, which is one of my favorite undead types, even though it doesn't really get used a lot. So it's really cool to see that here. So this one, their spells are basically all based off of illusion magic. So they don't get to cast like real spells. They were kind of like, I think, undead. Okay, these ones are a little bit different. They haunt their crypts. And okay, so before, like, the Hukiva was a priest that tried to become a lich, but they failed to create the proper concoction. So it actually made them like penalties to their wisdom and affected their spell casting stuff, but they still maintained a little bit of it. So here, these are holy men that committed acts of evil, and their punishment is to become these types of things. But still cool nonetheless. That's a really gnarly looking hobgoblin. I love that. That homunculus is a little off-putting. We got our hook fiend, our hydras, along with the pyro and cryo hydra. We have our implings, our intellect eater, invisible stalker. That's artwork down there, I'm assuming. So that's, again, I love that. That's an homage to the second edition AD&D Monstrous Manual, where the invisible stalker its artwork was just a blank spot. Ixit Ray, thank you for not like having that whole like big long jumble of nonsensical letters. We got our kobold, our kraken, the lamia. We got our lich there. Again, that looks really, really cool. We got our lizard folk, and I think there might be a little bit of a printing thing with mine. There's some splotches in a couple spots. But we also got our lizard lord, our Lolcon, which we also had deep ones earlier, so that was cool to see. Our were creatures. And the jackal were was also earlier in the book. We got our Medusa, merfolk. And here's another one that I was really happy to see here, the Mind Ravager. So they have like the tentacles, they can, stun you with psychic energy, and they get to extract your brain. For the brain extraction, something I thought was kind of like gnarly is that the Castle Keeper could say that it takes 1d4 rounds for them to extract the brain rather than just a single round. That's probably the way that I would run it, just to give the players a chance to like save the character whose brain is about to be devoured. Although, like, if you roll 4 and they spend 3 rounds trying to pull this brain out, I still feel like there might be some sort of damage that might occur there. But again, just some really cool stuff. We'll flip forward a little bit quicker here. Pseudo dragons, the Rakshasas, the Revenants. It's cool to see. You got our Rust Fiend, the Scarecrow, Serpent Folk, Shambling Muck, so the Shambling Mound type of plant, the Sirens, Skeletons, the Sphinx. We got our Spriggan, the Strix, which is they're the mosquito that can drain your con. We have the Tarask, which is back to basically being unkillable. You have to knock it down to like -30 and use a wish spell, which essentially just by somebody of 20th level or higher in order to really take it down. So, and I think usually with that situation, all it does is it just teleports it to a different plane of existence. We got our trolls or troglodytes. We got our Umber Brute. We got our vampire. And then the white. The Wraith is here as well. So Level Drain is once again back in this version of the game. The Wyvern there looks really cool. Yellow Haze Creeper. We have our Yeti, along with some zombies. and the Zorn. So again, some really cool stuff here, and then we get into our treasure section. So this is just basically all like the magic items and treasure hoards and things like that. And I think it's actually really cool to see that you've got the treasure section in the monster book, because each monster has like a treasure entry there. So it's kind of like some ready-made stuff that you can use to be able to, give the party treasure after they defeat the creature. We do have, like I said, our magic items here. So like Gauntlets of Ogreish Might, which increase your strength to 18. You got like your magic weapons there. They have like the Bane weapons. They have a dragon, like a dragon fighting sword, which is pretty powerful because where is it here? I think it's in the specific. Oh, that's armor and shields. Hold on. That's flaming sword, Bane weapon, dwarven hammer of throwing. Oh, maybe where did I see that? It might be back here. Dragon Slayer, there it is. So it's a +2 weapon that turns into +4 when fighting a dragon. However, when you're fighting like a specific dragon, so you choose like what the specific dragon type is that it's really designed to work against, then it also deals double damage against that specific one. So again, just some really, really cool stuff in this book. So, and I think it's great that they have the monsters and the treasure sort of combined into one. And then we've got our Castle Keeper's Guide, which I'll probably not focus on too much because I think this video's already been going on for a while. But again, this is sort of an optional book from what I've heard everybody say. But I wanted to have all three, right? I feel like if they've got like a Game Master's Guide type of thing, I kind of want to have that in here. So this is apparently sort of more about just like designing your campaign and your campaign world. Some optional ways of expanding out and creating your characters. So there's some really cool stuff in this book as well. So this might be a really handy book to read because, like I said, they have sections here. We'll look at the table of contents. They've got sections here on creating your world, like the city, the dungeons, world building here. So you get all kinds of cool stuff going to war, different expanded play, treasure combat, skill packages, character death. So there's some really cool stuff in this book, but it's not as pivotal to the being able to pick up and run this game as like a Dungeon Master's Guide for like AD&D First Edition, for example, would be. But still some really, really cool stuff. It looks like in here, like weather tables and different things to sort of keep in mind with some of that stuff that I don't normally think about too much in my games when I'm running it. So got like social ranks and again, different settlements and kind of what to expect in there. So again, really, really awesome stuff. And yeah, I think this is going to be a lot of fun to go through. And I'm really looking forward to, like I said, adapting that second edition AD&D adventure that I had made up a little while ago. And when we finish Savage Tide, what I'll do is, like I said, I'm probably going to convert it into Castles and Crusades and run it that way. So I'm looking forward to spending more time with these books. Really happy that they came in. The physical quality is really, really good on these. I love the cover art, the presentation I think is fantastic. It really does kind of have that old school sort of feel to it. The pages are like a nice glossy, material. So definitely like a high quality thing. They didn't skimp out when it came to like the makeup of these books. And again, I just love this old school homage cover art here as well. So that was my first looks at the Castles and Crusades game. Let me know in the comments below. What are your favorite aspects of Castles and Crusades? What did I get wrong? Because I think I tried to explain a few things that I probably messed up on. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on this system in the comments below. I've heard this referred to as TSR's third edition D&D. I don't know how true that is, but it's definitely feels like a spiritual successor to the advanced Dungeons and Dragons line. But with like the modern updates of allowing the races to be any class and allowing them to progress through the class progressions all the way. while still making humans stand out as a good choice to take for other reasons as well. So really, really cool stuff. Again, I'm really looking forward to diving more into this. And if there's anything else Castles and Crusades related, like any other books or products that are currently in print that might be worth checking out as well, let me know that in the comments below. It might be a while before I get to it, but I'll see what I can do there. Anyway, thank you all so very much for your time. I appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care.